I was 16 when I bought my first car with money I saved from 2 jobs. My brother crashed it while I was sleeping. My dad paid his ticket. My mom said, "He's just a boy." He didn't mean it. I never drove again. Years later, I finally bought a new one, with my name on everything. My brother asked to borrow it for a date. I tossed him the keys. But he didn't know I'd installed a GPS, and what I found out that night changed everything I thought I knew about my family. I bought my first car when I was 16. No help, no handouts, just me working after school and every weekend. I scrubbed dishes at a diner and cut grass for anyone who'd pay. Took me over a year, but I finally saved enough. It was a used 2004 Honda Civic. Beat up silver paint. One of the door handles was cracked. But it ran, and it was mine. I signed the title myself. That car was more than just a way to get around. It was the one thing in my life that was actually mine. Then my brother ruined it. His name is Danny. 2 years older than me, but he acted like he was 5. Spoiled, reckless, and always protected by our parents. I don't say this lightly, he was the kind of kid who never got told no. Ever. One night, about 3 weeks after I got the car, I came home exhausted. I'd worked a double shift at the diner. I remember parking the Civic in our driveway, shutting off the lights, and walking inside like a zombie. I didn't even eat. Just passed out on the couch. I woke up to yelling. My mom was in the kitchen, red-faced and frantic. My dad was pacing back and forth. I thought someone had died. Then I looked outside. My car was gone. Before I could even panic, Danny said, real casual, "Oh, I borrowed it last night. Just to grab food. No license. No permission. Nothing." He blew through a stop sign on the east side and got slammed by a pickup truck. He was fine. Not even a scratch. But my car? Totaled. They towed it to a junkyard. I didn't even get to see it. When I asked my parents what they were going to do, they stared at me like I was the problem. My dad said, "I'll pay his ticket. It's over." My mom said, "He's just a boy." He didn't mean it. I said that was my car. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "You're being dramatic." I didn't have it in me to fight them. I was 16. Broke. Tired. And angry in a way I didn't have the words for. I cried in my room that night. I cried like a kid because that car was the only thing I had control over in my life, and they let him destroy it like it meant nothing. After that, I stopped driving. I didn't want to go through that again. I didn't trust anyone. I moved out as soon as I turned 18. I didn't talk to my family much. I worked full-time, took night classes, and kept to myself. They never offered help. I stopped expecting it. Danny? He kept screwing up. Got arrested once for shoplifting. Got kicked out of 2 colleges. My parents paid every fine, bailed him out, even gave him money for rent. He never worked a real job longer than 6 months. I kept my head down. Paid off my student loans. Got an IT job at a hospital. Started saving again. And finally, at 29, I bought another car. A brand new 2023 Toyota Corolla. Not flashy. Just solid. Dark blue. Leather seats. Reliable. I didn't tell anyone at first. Then Danny called. Said he wanted to reconnect. Said he was finally getting his act together. Said he met someone, her name was Madison, and she might be the one. We met for lunch at a small diner near the highway. He seemed different. Quieter. More put together. He even apologized for the car all those years ago. I was an idiot, he said. I didn't get it then. But I do now. I wanted to believe him. I really did. Because for all the resentment, he was still my brother. And I missed having a brother. Then he said, "I know this is a weird ask, but can I borrow your car for a night? I want to take Madison out somewhere nice." I paused. Everything in me said don't do it. But I smiled. Handed him the keys. What he didn't know was that 2 weeks earlier I had installed a GPS tracker under the dash. Not because I expected him to ask for the car, but because I live alone and I'm paranoid. It pings location updates to an app on my phone every 10 minutes. And it logs routes. He left at 6:14 p.m. I watched the first dot move south toward the freeway. Made sense. Restaurants are down there. Then the dot kept moving past the restaurant district. At 6:52 p.m., he stopped outside a big house on the west side. It looked familiar. I pulled up the address. It was the Whitman's house. Old family friends. Rich couple. kinda shady. I hadn't seen them in over a decade. At 7:13 p.m., he was still there. The dot didn't move. Then I remembered something, Mr. Whitman was arrested years ago for insurance fraud. My parents swore it was a mistake. At 8:25 p.m., the car moved again. North this time. At 8:57 p.m., it pulled up to a warehouse near an industrial park. No signage. No lights. Just 4 other cars parked outside. My stomach dropped. Danny stayed there for 40 minutes. Then he drove back to my place, dropped off the car, and acted like nothing happened. "Thanks, bro," he said. "You're a lifesaver." She loved it. I nodded, said nothing, took the keys and went inside. Then I opened the GPS app again, double-checked the logs, took screenshots of everything. Something was wrong, very wrong. So I started digging. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up cross-referencing the address of that warehouse. It wasn't on Google Maps, just an empty lot if you looked it up. But I found a few posts on a local forum guys talking about after-hours poker, off-the-book storage, and cash-only deals. It wasn't a warehouse. It was a front. I couldn't prove it yet, but I knew. My gut was screaming. And when I called in sick the next day and drove past that building myself, it got worse. No sign. No company name. Just a long metal building with 2 cameras and 1 steel door. I didn't get out. I just watched. A black SUV pulled in. Same make and model I remembered seeing outside the Whitman's place when I used to mow their lawn. I followed it back through town. They didn't go home. They went to my parents' house. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I parked across the street and watched. The SUV stayed parked out front. 10 minutes. Then the driver got out. It wasn't Mr. Whitman. It was my dad. My dad. I ducked in my seat, heart pounding. He walked around to the back of the SUV, opened it, and started pulling out a large black bag. Heavy. He slung it over his shoulder, knocked on the door, and went inside. They were all in on it. Danny. The Whitmans. My dad. I don't know what scared me more. That they were doing something illegal, or that they were so confident I'd never find out. I drove away fast. Too fast. I called my mom later that night. Pretended everything was normal. Asked how she and Dad were doing. She said they were great, then asked if I'd seen Danny lately. Yeah, I said. He borrowed my car last night. There was a pause. Just a beat. Oh, she said. That's nice of you. That was it? No, where'd he go? No, thanks for helping him out. Just cold, careful words. Like she was trying not to say too much. That night, I opened my old box of family photos. There was one from Christmas, maybe 2012. Danny, me, Mom, Dad, and the Whitmans. Everyone smiling. I zoomed in on the coffee table in the background. There were stacks of envelopes on it. Every envelope had a rubber band. Every rubber band had money sticking out the sides. My heart dropped. It had been going on for years. The next week, I went back to that industrial warehouse. Not during the day, at night. I parked behind a gas station, walked 2 blocks, and waited with a camera. At 11:22 p.m., Danny pulled up. Same Corolla. My Corolla. I watched him take a bag out of the trunk and knock on the steel door. The door opened. He handed it off. No words. Then he walked back, got in the car, and left. I followed him. But this time, he didn't go to his place. He went to an apartment across town. Place I didn't recognize. I waited 10 minutes after he went inside. Then I walked up and knocked. The door opened. It wasn't Madison. It was my sister. Except I don't have a sister. She opened the door wearing a tank top and gym shorts. Mid-20s. Blonde. Familiar eyes. Can I help you? She asked. I just stared. My brain froze. Danny was sitting on the couch behind her. Shirt off. Holding a beer. He didn't even flinch. Hey, he said like nothing was wrong. You didn't need to come here. I stepped inside without asking. The girl moved aside confused. I looked around. 1-bedroom apartment. Pretty clean. 2 toothbrushes in the holder. Her purse on the counter. You gonna explain? I asked. Danny sighed. Took a sip of his beer. Then he looked at the girl and said, "This is my brother. The one I told you about." She smiled awkwardly. Oh. Hi. I'm Danny. Danny. I blinked. Thought I misheard. He laughed. Yeah. We have fun with that. Danny and Danny. We met at the gym. She looked confused again. Wait, what's going on? I turned to him. You're living with her? Sometimes he shrugged. Mostly stay here when I'm working late. You said you were dating Madison. He gave a smirk. Yeah, I am. My stomach flipped. She doesn't know about Danny? I asked. Nope, he said, still sipping his beer. Keep that between us? I looked at her. She froze. Face went pale. He looked at her too, then shrugged. Guess now you do. I wanted to hit him. Right there. Instead, I walked out. I didn't sleep again that night. I thought about calling Madison. I even found her Instagram. But I didn't. Something else kept buzzing in my brain. The girl at the apartment, Danny, she looked just like my mom did in her old college photos. The nose. The chin. The crooked smile. Next day, I drove to the county clerk's office and requested birth records. Danny Whitman. Born June 1999. Mother, Caroline Whitman. Father, unknown. I felt sick. I drove back to the Whitman's house. Sat there in the car with binoculars and watched for 3 hours. At 5:45 p.m., my dad pulled into their driveway. Not parked. Pulled in. He went inside like he'd lived there. I drove home and went straight into the attic. Dug through a box of old papers, receipts, family files. Then I found it. A letter. Dated July 1999. Handwritten. It was from my mom to Mrs. Whitman. I understand why it happened, it said. But this can't come out. Ever. Below that, he made his choice. I've made mine. I felt like the floor was gone under me. Danny wasn't just some girl. She was my dad's daughter. My half-sister. And Danny was sleeping with her. I sat in my kitchen for hours just staring at that letter. Reading it again and again like the words might change. But they didn't. He made his choice. I've made mine. That's what my mom wrote to Mrs. Whitman. Meaning she knew. She knew about the affair. About Danny. And she stayed. She raised Danny. She raised me. And she let my dad live 2 lives, maybe more. I thought about every time I asked questions as a kid. Why we saw the Whitmans more than any other family, why my dad got so weird whenever Mrs. Whitman was around. Why Danny always called him Uncle Ray. He was her uncle to the world. But he was her father behind closed doors. And Danny? Sleeping with her. Either he didn't know or he didn't care. I didn't know which one was worse. I couldn't sit still. I grabbed the GPS logs again. Every trip Danny made for the last month. The Whitman's house. The warehouse. A bar in Northridge. Another house in the hills. I tracked that house too. Found out it belonged to a guy named Trevor Marsh. Arrested twice for laundering money through shell companies. Never convicted. Guess who co-signed on one of his business licenses 5 years ago? My dad. This was bigger than I thought. It wasn't just Danny running errands. My whole family, at least my dad, was knee-deep in something illegal. Drug money? Fraud? Maybe both. And Danny was their runner. Flashy car, clean face, no record. He wasn't cleaning up his life. He was covering up their messes. And I'd just given him my brand new car to do it. I wanted answers. But I knew I wouldn't get the truth unless I forced it out. So I made a plan. I waited 3 nights. I waited until Danny called me again. Hey bro, he said. Can I use the car again this Friday? I smiled into the phone. Yeah, sure. But this time I didn't just give him the keys. I also planted a voice recorder in the back seat. One with a long battery life and sound activation. He took the car. Same time. Same direction. I followed from 2 blocks back. Not close enough to get noticed. He went to the Whitmans again. Then the warehouse. But this time he stayed longer. When he brought the car back, he looked tired. Sweaty. Almost paranoid. You good? I asked. Yeah, he said. Just a long night. I waited until he left. Then I grabbed the recorder and played it back. It was crackly at first. Wind noise. A few muffled words. Then a voice I didn't recognize said, same split as last time? Danny answered, yeah. But if my brother ever finds out, the voice cut him off. He won't. He's not like you. He's clean. Smart. That's why we don't let him in. Danny laughed. Yeah. Poor kid still thinks dad works in real estate. Another voice. Older. Familiar. My dad. We keep him clean for a reason. If this goes sideways, he's our safe card. I felt sick. They weren't just hiding it from me. They were using me. keeping me clean so they'd always have a fallback. A patsy. Or worse, someone they could throw under the bus if things went south. My own family. And my own father called me a safeguard. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat in the dark, phone in one hand, recorder in the other, going over every word they said. My dad's voice was burned into my ears. Keep him clean. He's our safeguard. They never protected me. They never gave a damn about me. They just kept me on the outside in case they needed someone clean enough to take a fall. Someone with no record. A name with value. I was their insurance policy. I wanted to burn the whole thing down. But I wasn't stupid. If I went to the cops, they might not believe me. They might think I was part of it. I had to do it right. So I started gathering. 3 weeks. That's how long it took. I copied GPS logs, time-stamped audio files, screenshots of addresses, old business licenses with my dad's signature, property records linked to the Whitmans. And the birth certificate. Danny's birth certificate. With my dad's name in the father box, handwritten and crossed out. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Madison, the real girlfriend. We met in a coffee shop. She looked nervous when I sat down. I don't know if you'll believe me, I said. But if you care about Danny, you should hear this. She stayed for 2 hours. I showed her everything. Played her the audio. Told her who Danny really was. At first, she said it wasn't possible. Then she started crying. He told me Danny was his cousin, she whispered. She left the coffee shop in tears. 2 days later, she posted screenshots of Danny's texts on Facebook. And the voice recording. Tagged his name. By nightfall, it had spread. And it didn't stop there. I took everything I had. Every document, every photo, and mailed it to the FBI. With a letter. No return address. No name. Just this, there is a network of money laundering and fraud tied to these people. I was never a part of it. But I know everything. Start with the Whitmans and follow the paper trail. My father, Raymond Ellison, is the root. Attached are files to prove it. And I waited. Didn't take long. 2 weeks later, the warehouse got raided. The Whitmans were arrested. Trevor Marsh too. Then it hit the news. Money laundering, tax evasion, bribery. They named my dad in the indictment. And Danny? He ran. Disappeared 2 days before the arrests. Left everything behind. No goodbye. No apology. Not even a text. Coward. I thought I'd feel better after. But here's the truth. I didn't win. Not really. The last time I saw my mom, she slammed the door in my face. Screamed through the wood. You ruined this family. She didn't ask what they did. She didn't ask if it was true. She just blamed me. My dad's still waiting for trial. Could be years in prison. Maybe more. And me? I haven't spoken to anyone since. The house is quiet. Too quiet. Some days I wonder if I made a mistake. But then I remember the letter. He made his choice. I've made mine. So did I. That Corolla I bought? Still runs smooth. But I don't drive much. Not anymore. Because every time I touch those keys, I remember the day my brother crashed my first car. And the night I finally crashed his whole world in return.